3 o'clock, so we will get started. Thank you for joining us for the Langston University Emergency Leadership Team's weekly briefing. As always, I'm joined by my colleagues from the Executive Policy Group, Mrs. Teresa Powell, Dean Joshua Snavely, Dean Joshua Busby, and Chief Holland. I'm Ruth Jackson, Vice President for Academic Affairs. In today's session, we will provide a CARES Act HBCU grant update. We'll provide a status update on COVID-19 cases. We'll recap the COVID-19 notification reminders, and we'll spend the majority of our time focusing on academic support services. And then we'll close the webinar by reflecting on resilience. The Langston University CARES Act HBCU grant application closed last Friday, September 25th. We had over 1,000 applications that we received. Last Saturday, October 26th, all of the applicants were notified that their applications had been received. Currently, the CARES Act HBCU Grant Committee is reviewing the applications, and we'll walk through that process for the next few days. The review of all applications will continue until October 23rd. Now, Dean Snavely will provide our weekly COVID-19 update. Dean Snavely.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson, and good afternoon, everyone. Good to be with you. As is our tradition and process, we'll provide our weekly update. So as of noon today, Monday, September 28th, Oklahoma now has over 85,000 total COVID-19 cases, with just over 13,000 currently in active status. Oklahoma, unfortunately, just passed the 1,000 mark in deaths. In Logan County, the area where Langston University is located, the main campus, there's just over or just under 500 cases, 492 total, with just over 100 active. There has only been one death in Logan County to date. And here on the Langston University campus, we've had a total of 28 cases, with only 7 of those cases currently active. Wanted to take a moment to, as Dr. Jackson mentioned, just remind everyone about how they notify us, the Executive Policy Group and the Emergency Leadership Team, about COVID-19. And that includes 3 different categories. So if you are experiencing symptoms of COVID-19, if you've tested positive for COVID-19, or you've been exposed to someone who's tested positive for COVID-19. And our definition of exposure is you've been around that person for, and this is consistent with the CDC, you've been around that person for more than 15 minutes, closer than 6 feet or less during that time frame, and no one was wearing PPE. If you fit those categories, you would go to the COVID-19 information and resource page found on the website. It would take you there, and then on the left side navigation, you'll find that bottom link there where it says located here in the arrow. You would click on that link, and it would take you to this landing page or PDF with a QR code that you hover your phone's camera over to go to the notification form. Again, if you're having symptoms, you've been exposed, or you've tested positive, you use this form to notify us. And this is really important, hard to stress how important, because that's what begins our entire contact tracing process. That's how we know what areas of the campus to clean, who to talk to. Everything starts with this form. So we rely on the members of our community to notify us as soon as possible. Or if you know of someone, you can also fill it out on behalf of someone else. So just a quick reminder of that. hope you will remember that and save that in a quick link so you can get there quickly. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Jackson.
Thanks, Dean Snavely. So today we're joined by a special guest, Dr. Jason K. Johnson. Dr. Johnson serves as the Assistant Vice President for Student Success. As part of his responsibilities, he oversees University College, the Registrar's Office, our Honors Program, as well as the Computer Technology Integration Office, or CTI. Today, Dr. Johnson is going to talk to us about how to utilize the resources and strategies to support academic success. Welcome, Dr. Johnson.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Dr. Johnson, would you start by giving us an overview of a few key tips to help all students as they operate in our new normal?
Yes, so I put together about 9 tips that I wanted to give students for success. And these tips center on making sure you have a dedicated workspace, a schedule, setting boundaries, making sure that you're taking control of your learning, and then also those real buggy tech issues that we always seem to have at some point in time.
Thanks, Dr. Johnson. So can you describe for us how a student should begin their day each and every day as they approach, the day that lies before?
Yeah, so first thing I would recommend is after a student gets up, after they've gone through their normal hygiene to start the day, had their breakfast, I would recommend that they check their Langston University email. Oftentimes, if a faculty member has an issue and needs to cancel class or reschedule some things, they'll send an email to the Langston University email account. If you are using Outlook or Gmail, you can create folders for your classes. That way, those emails don't go to spam and you can get them sent directly to you. Additionally, you also want to check your D2L course pages for class announcements. Sometimes a faculty member may decide to have a course asynchronous compared to synchronous, meaning that asynchronous, they're going to post some discussion questions and the students can go throughout the day at their leisure to answer those questions and correspond with their classmates. Whereas in synchronous, they're going to be sitting in class, the faculty member is going to be teaching to them. So they want to check their email and check D2L for any announcements so they can be prepared for their day.
Thanks, Dr. Johnson. And with so many of our students doing hybrid learning and flex classes, what kind of advice would you give them? And should they approach those courses in the same way they would approach a face-to-face class?
The first thing I would tell them is don't fall for the trap. A lot of students think that when you're taking an online course, it's going to be a lot easier than an in-person class. But actually, an online course requires more self-discipline, more self-learning than an in-person course would. Or your faculty member is really expecting you to come to class having read the material, having gone through some of the material, and being prepared to have that class virtually. So you really want to prepare for an online course similar, if not more, than you would for an in-person course. Don't solely rely on your notes. And most importantly, make sure that you're staying organized and on top of the class.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Do you have any general advice for students as it relates to faculty and staff?
Yes, I think that during this time, we all have to be very understanding of what's going on. We're navigating this pandemic together. And additionally, there are new things that we're finding out about this pandemic every day. So we want to make sure that we're being understanding and a little compassionate with our students, with our faculty, and most importantly, communication. Communication is the key. We need to make sure that students, you're communicating with your faculty member, letting them know if you may have issues or there may be some trouble that has popped up that you weren't expecting. So you want to make sure that you're keeping that line of communication open with your faculty, especially with everything being virtual and online, and you don't necessarily get to walk into your faculty member's office and have that conversation.
Thank you. And to follow up, how important is planning on a day-to-day basis?
It's very important. I know for me personally, once we had this pandemic and we started quarantining, I kind of lost track of my own schedule. So one of the things that I've really been focused on, and I recommend for the students, is create you a consistent schedule. Getting up at the same time, going through the same routine so that you get accustomed to it. If a class is canceled, don't just go back to bed and not do anything. Take that time to read, complete assignments, and study for that class as if you were actually in the class. Then again, making sure you stay on top of things and communicating with your professors, so as they make adjustments to their syllabi, you can make adjustments to your schedule. Additionally, I would say make sure you're doing activities that still promote your physical, mental, and spiritual health. So if you need to take a walk, you need to do some push-ups or some sit-ups, maybe you want to read a book, anything that helps keep you centered and promote your physical and mental, spiritual health, you need to make sure you keep that in your plan as well.
Thanks, Doc. I think as you talk about that balance, another thing comes to mind is, you know, how do students build their workspace? How do they build boundaries and breaks? Talk a little bit about that.
So as I mentioned earlier about the quarantine, a lot of times, you know, we're working from home. We're working in our, you know, rooms. So it's real easy to get comfortable and lay around and stay in your pajamas and really not build that space. And oftentimes you blur the lines between a comfort space and a workspace. So you want to create a space where when you go to it, your brain automatically starts thinking, when I'm in this space, it's time to focus on class and work. You also want to share those plans and schedules with your family and friends, especially if you're at home, because you need to set those boundaries, set those expectations so that you can have the time and space to do your classwork, do your assignments, and keep that consistent schedule that I mentioned earlier. Lastly, you also want to give your body and brain a study break. I think we've all been at the point where we try to cram a lot of information in our heads at the last minute, and we end up not being able to retain any of it. So you want to still make sure that you're giving your body and your brain that space to rest and retain the information that you're reading.
Dr. Johnson, earlier you talked about the importance of communicating, and part of that communication that we're trying to teach our students is self-advocacy. What are your recommendations for how a student can really become their own advocate?
So again, I think that we've all experienced this, where we walk on a college campus and we're expecting everyone to kind of tell us where to go and what to do and how to do it. And sometimes we end up following the stream that takes us to wherever we go. So for the students, this is your education. This is you taking charge of your learning and what it is that you want to do with your career. So with that understanding, first you need to reach out to your professors if you're having questions or concerns about a course. If you're not understanding something, you want to reach out to your professors. Additionally, you also want to seek out your advisors. Oftentimes we have conversations with students and we ask, well, who is your advisor? And they say, well, I don't know. Then we ask, who enrolled you? And it's like, well, that lady down the hall to the right. And that right there is a big mistake. You should always know the people that you're having conversations with. So even if you have to write their names down so you'll remember it later, you want to take the time to learn the people that you're engaging and interacting with, because you're going to need that information later on. Additionally, when you are communicating concerns, there's a chain of command that you go through to address those concerns. First and foremost, you have the conversation with your instructor. If you and your instructor can't resolve the issue, then you move on to the department chair to attempt to resolve the issue. If the issue can't be resolved with the department chair, then you move on to the dean. And lastly, it would be the vice president for academic affairs that you would go to address any concern that you may have. And for those of you students who may need some ADA accommodations, please get in touch with Miss Cynthia Buckley. Her email is listed on the slide.
Thanks, Dr. Johnson. And so many of us are more reliant on technology nowadays. We're having to do Zoom webinars and connect virtually. What advice would you give our students if they do encounter any challenges with technology, and how might they resolve those?
No, I'm just joking. But have you ever been in a presentation and you're in the middle of the presentation, it's going well, and then next thing you know, it gets choppy and it freezes, and you're just really a little frustrated because of those tech issues? So we all experience them. So make sure as students that you're logging into class early. If you're meeting with the advisors or your professor, make sure to log in early to check your Wi-Fi, check your connectivity, so that you can make sure you got those things out of the way. If you are having additional issues and you need immediate assistance, we have a couple of departments that you can talk to, but before you contact those departments, make sure you contact your professor and advisors to let them know that you're having issues with your Wi-Fi. Additionally, we always say never screenshot, but in this case, if you're having issues with Wi-Fi or any tech issues, make sure you screenshot it so that you can have that documentation to support it. But onto the departments that you can reach out to. So if you're having issues where you need your password, reset, maybe you need help setting up your email on your phone or downloading some of the Microsoft 365 features, you would contact Information Technology Services. We have a help desk number that you can contact, 466-3215, or you can email helpdesk@okstate.edu. If there are issues or something a little bit different, such as you're needing help with D2L and its features, or learning how to email in D2L, or maybe downloading the apps, then you would contact our CTI department and they can help you with those issues.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. I think those are so valuable. As someone who's graded a lot of assignments, I think that, making sure that you don't wait till the last minute to take a test, taking that early and reaching out to those faculty members as soon as you have an issue to let them know, that's really great advice, and would just second that to all the students listening. The next several slides, we're going to talk about other resources that are out there. This slide that you're seeing now shows the next segment of our discussion. So let's start by talking next about our University College success coaches and our faculty advisors. Tell us a little bit about first the success coaches and then the advisors.
All right, so in University Women's Building, we have 6 student success coaches, and they advise students up to 40 credit hours. After the 40 credit hours, there's a transition period that students will go through. Well, they'll have dual advisorship, being the student success coaches and their academic advisors. After the 40 credit hours, that's when they'll meet with their faculty advisor, who will help guide them on to graduation. One of the things that we really want for all of our advisors is to develop a meaningful education plan for the students, and we want to assist them with their goals and career plans based on their own personal values. So additionally, when we talk about our success coaches as well as our faculty advisors, we're talking about staff members who can answer any of the questions about the classes and help direct students to additional resources on campus. Some of those resources we're going to talk about a little bit more later in this presentation. But also, we don't want just the student to be an advocate for themselves. We want them to have a staff advocate. So we look for our university college success coaches and our faculty advisors to serve as advocates for those students as well. Lastly, students, what I would encourage you all to do is take at least one day a week and meet with your advisor. If you have questions or other concerns, I would say meet with them more frequently, but you really want to take the time to get to know them and develop that relationship, because again, they're going to be your advocate on campus.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. We know that the library is very important to our academic setting and our learning as well. Could you tell us about the library resources available to our students?
Yeah, so our library really has a lot of cool things going on and taking place there. One being that they have a database of over 50 databases that students can utilize to do research, look up different topics, especially when they're writing those papers and everything for their English courses. But we have those 50 databases. Additionally, there's a computer lab in the library so that if students need that space, they can go in and do their homework there. One of the things that I really love about the library is that we have the pods, and students can reserve the pods. That's just a quiet space for them to be able to go in and study and do whatever work that they want.
And a follow-up question, what other resources are available through the library?
So two things. The library also hires a lot of students to work. So if you're in need of a position or a job, please follow up with the library because they do have some employment opportunities. But then lastly, we have a text-to-librarian service. The students from their cell phone can text 66746, type in LION, and they'll get a reply text that will say success, reply with your questions. But make sure you include your phone number so the librarian can text you back directly.
Dr. Johnson, many of our students have their own computers and other devices to help with this environment of remote, hybrid, and flex learning. But we do have several computer labs on campus. Would you talk a little bit about those resources?
Yeah, so I mentioned the library having a computer lab, but additionally there's a computer lab in University Women's Building on the 3rd floor. It typically maintains a lot wide open hours, Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And based on need, those hours can be extended. And then Saturday and Sunday from 1 to 6 p.m. And then the academic buildings such as Morehouse, Jones, Stanford, Hamilton, Allied Health, they also have computer labs available for student use as well. But students, you may want to check with the dean of that school because sometimes those computer labs are reserved for students that are majored in that particular school.
So Dr. Johnson, could you talk a little bit about the role of tutoring and what it looks like right now? How can our students get access to tutoring?
Yeah, so students can go to the website www.langston.mywconline.com. And there we have 3 subject areas that students can get tutoring in: writing, mathematics, natural science. So if you are having some issues or some questions and you need additional assistance, go to that website, sign up for a date, and make sure that you put it on your calendar so that you can make your necessary tutoring appointment. Additionally, we provide some step-by-steps on how to access that tutoring as well.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. And can you tell us more about the Writing Center and what resources are available there to students?
Yeah, so Dr. Howard oversees the Writing Center, and the Writing Center is not just there for helping students with English classes. It's any course that you may have a paper that you just need some additional help with the writing. They conduct brainstorming sessions. They assist with the drafting and revising papers, and students would email their paper in. A tutor would look at it, make some notes, and they would do that all virtually. Currently, again, the Writing Center is virtual, Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. To assist students.
And Dr. Johnson, you've provided us with a lot of important dates here. Can you share what dates in particular students should pay close attention to?
Yeah, so there's 4 dates that are in particular students need to pay close attention to. First, October 14th, that's the last day to drop a class and receive an AW. Following that, November 6th is the last day to drop a course and receive a W in that 16-week session. For those students that are planning to graduate in spring of 2021, November 1st is the last day that you can apply for that spring graduation. And lastly, on October 19th, we begin our pre-enrollment for spring 2021. So if you do have a balance or some concerns about your bill, you may want to start having those conversations now so that you can get cleared to pre-enroll for spring 2021.
Thank you for that, Dr. Johnson. Reaching out and having key contacts is very important. Could you talk through and provide us with the key contact information for students who they could reach out to for help or assistance?
Yes, so I wanted to put Dr. Lynn Simpson, she's the Dean of Libraries, on the contact list. If you have any questions concerning the library reserving those pods, the resources that the library may have, such as those databases, please contact her. Additionally, I included the Office of Financial Aid and the Office of Enrollment Management. Quite a few students still have questions about their financial aid, and you can get in contact with them directly. And as I previously mentioned, pre-enrollment is coming up on October 19th. So if you need to make arrangements, please contact the Office of Enrollment Management to make those arrangements to get cleared to enroll.
Thanks, Dr. Johnson, for providing so much valuable information. At this point, we'll pause and entertain any questions that we may have in the chat box. I did notice that Dr. Johnson from the English department added that the Writing Center also assists students with presentations and speeches, not only essays and reports. So thank you for that additional information, Dr. Johnson. We also have a question that says, can a professor see the names of the advisors of the students who are enrolled in their courses? So maybe the professor can assist and guide the students if students say that they do not know who their advisors are. So Dr. Johnson, can you tell us how everyone can identify the advisors for various students?
Yes, we have a couple of different ways we could actually do that. First, I believe we sent out a list of all the advisors across campus, including the university, college, student success coaches, and what school that they were attached to. Additionally, in campus labs, if you log into campus labs and you click on a student's name, you can see who all is in their network. The network consists of other professors and advisors that are connected to that student. One of the things that we did with Campus Labs earlier this year is that we made sure that we connected the students to their university college advisor. So when you log into Campus Labs, you'll be able to see that network that the student has around them.
Thanks, Dr. Johnson. I'm glad you mentioned it as a reminder to our faculty and staff who have joined us that we are utilizing Beacon through Campus Labs to make sure that we're all connected. So thanks for that. Are there any other questions that you have? Please feel free to type them in the chat feature. Okay. That looks like everything. So again, Dr. Johnson, we appreciate you joining us and sharing these resources. Again, if you have any questions or concerns about academic success or our support services, please know that you can reach Dr. Johnson at jason.k.johnson@langston.edu. So at this point, we've reached our reflecting on resilience. And so I'm going to ask Dean Busby to talk to you a little bit about our focus for this week.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. And so it's my honor and pleasure to present and really to reintroduce for some that don't know and to speak about the great work that's going on at the Langston Community Food Pantry. Just last week, we celebrated a 1-year anniversary of being open to serve our community. The Langston Community Food Pantry was the first university community pantry in the state of Oklahoma, established to serve the needs of the campus community as well as the surrounding local communities in Langston as well. That's Langston, Coyle, Meridian, and even we've made our way over into Guthrie as well. And I want to acknowledge that we would not have been able to make it thus far without the tremendous support of our volunteers, both from the campus community and our surrounding communities as well, who show up every month to assist us during food delivery and food distribution. We are forever grateful to each of you. I also want to give special recognition to Miss Alicia Sumlin and Mayor Stevenson from the town of Langston, who always help to coordinate the volunteers who are really the engine behind our operation. As we look at the next slide and we talk about the work that we've done just last week relative to distribution and how many families we touched. Since September of 2019, our food pantry has served 1,583 households and a total of 3,576 individuals total. This is a phenomenal feat because if you pause for a second, prior to the pantry even coming into existence, this was a need that was not necessarily being fulfilled holistically. But now there is a resource that is in place, not only for the community, but for our students, faculty, staff as well. And so you see there on the slide, this was just our numbers for last week for the month of September for our September distribution. And we only distribute for 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And you will see there that we served 128 households and a total of 300 total individuals. This is just another picture of some of the work that our volunteers have been doing, and you'll see there that we have a drive-through operation, so nobody has to get out their car. They just pull up, fill out a brief document that we have just to make sure that we're counting the individuals in the household, and then they drive off. It's as simple as that. And we're, again, forever grateful to those volunteers. As it relates to the distribution days, you will see that there that we have the dates through October. So October 28th, October 29th, October 31st, again, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. Our actual delivery date is that Tuesday prior to the Wednesday delivery. So on Tuesday, October 27th, is when the truck comes to drop off the food that we have to sort and essentially prepare. And again, I want to just tell you that the Langston Community Food Pantry is open to serve our faculty, staff, students, as well as citizens of Langston and surrounding communities at these dates and times, and you'll see those there. Lastly, as always, the pantry is always soliciting volunteers and supporters to continue to support our mission and our efforts. And so to volunteer or to support, please send an email to lufoodpantry@langston.edu. Again, lufoodpantry@langston.edu. Thanks so much, Dr. Jackson.
Thank you, Dean. This is just another example of how our community has adjusted to the pandemic and continue to do great things. So we're blessed to have the Langston Community Food Pantry as part of our university community. So we've come to the end of our weekly webinar. Please join us next Monday, October 5th at 3 o'clock. In next week's webinar, we'll talk about the COVID-19 notification protocols and contact tracing process. So thanks for joining us. Have a wonderful day and take care, Lions.